Hi, everybody. Drew here. Had a small glitch with my microphone. It's a little fuzzy. Don't worry, it'll get fixed next time. That said, the following podcast contains some strong language and adult themes. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Enjoy. So welcome to the podcast. We have no idea what we're doing with it beyond we have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fair assessment?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was even going to tease up who you guys are, like guest show style.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I'm curious.
Yeah, but you're talking, so like now
so I should stop talking. See, I can't. Okay.
No, I'm leaving it on you for now. Just
Do I say something now?
and here's Taylor.
Hi.
This is incredible.
It's riveting podcast material, folks.
It
All
is.
right, so today on the show, the one thing that we're going to talk about is we focus on one good thing, meaning we just take an idea and we're going to talk about this idea. Whatever it is, whenever we have guests on, that's what we're going to do, right?
Yep.
And so we don't know what it'll be. Sometimes it could be based on the show, which you guys, if you don't know yet, you can head over to YouTube to find the show.
Yes. YouTube exclusive.
Yeah, and it'll be linked below for you to find it. So if you haven't done that, you can do that. At the same time, though, we're also going to talk about maybe one of those topics, but we might also just talk about one good thing that stands out to us in the moment, and that's what we focus on. So the entire show will zero in on that. Okay, so today, the topic for one good thing, our one good thing for the day, right, for this particular episode will be why you decided and what moved you guys as a team to develop the show, this content, this entity that exists based, not necessarily based on, but inspired by Mr. Rogers. And answer now.
Wow. That is a deep question. Let's just go right to the kisser right away. Yeah. So I mean, I think everybody knows who Mr. Rogers is and was, and that spirit is enduring. And I think it's needed in this world now more than ever. We've been thinking about doing this or something like it for 2 years now, and we're finally here, and it's happening. If you look at the set of Mr. Rogers, it means a whole lot more than walls and floors and doors. It means something much more. Walls and floors and doors normally equal a room. A living room is a totally different thing. And I think the world needs to care more about children, and I think that spirit is needed. And after countless pitches and meetings and failures, really, and struggles, we're finally here. And obviously no one could ever replace or replicate Fred or that show, but a modern twist on that, and something I feel like people need this now, and I think I need it too, and I think we need it for us too. And people just need to know that they're loved and that they're special and that they're accepted as they are. I've learned so much from him and still continue to do so. And I think our amazing group of people around us and everything has made it all possible. And so, you have too.
I teed it up. I wanted to throw that really heavy question up front because there's a reason why I like to kind of mix things up. I think if we do a straight up and down, like, hello, my name is Edward J. Dudes, and like, I think that's fine. Yeah. But I think more interesting, suddenly we come out of the gate with this conversation about, like, what is he talking about? So if you don't know by now, you guys set out to create original content inspired by Mr. Rogers. I almost said Will Rogers. I don't know why. Inspired by Mr. Rogers. And it comes from a place of a community that I think is where another part of this conversation needs to start. So I like to put that heavy question up front. Now let's go backwards, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing begins, and I'm going to go from Taylor's perspective for this. I'm just curious. Okay. This whole thing begins because a guy is bored at home during the pandemic. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
bored.
Very fair statement.
And you were working somewhere at the time, correct?
Yes. So we were both working. We had just started a business that very much relied on tourism. And I was working also, and COVID started getting really bad, and all of these jobs in our area were going remote. People were starting to cancel vacations just because they weren't sure what was happening with the pandemic and things like that. My job all of a sudden became remote very quickly. So I was working from home. And then the governor shut down the beaches right when our business should have been booming, really kicking off. So I'm working at home, 8 to 5, and he doesn't have anything to do really because the business can't do anything.
Right.
It relies on tourism, and tourism was essentially canceled.
Right.
So part of my job was in customer service. So I had to be on the phone from 8 to 5, except for the 1 hour that I got for lunch. So he has to be quiet in the house, which if you've met him, is not next to impossible.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes in the garage and he's like, I think I'm going to download TikTok. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to download it. And I don't know. I was like, okay. So I could hear him in our garage laughing at himself while I'm on the phone trying to be professional. And he'd come inside laughing at himself, walking through the house. And then when he knew I had like a break in my work, he'd be like, look at this. And he'd show me these videos of him sitting in a recliner in our garage doing like cheesy dad jokes or like word of the day or something like that, or just laughing at himself. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I think I'm going to post it. I'm like, okay. Like, I had no, okay, let me get back to my work here. So he did. And it really just, it took off, him just being goofy, really being yourself. And it really took off. And from there, we really started building a community of people that needed that enlightenment throughout the day. COVID was a hard time for everyone. I think that's a fair statement to say. A lot of people, I think, were in a really bad place. And so going to an app where you can get that uplifting moment of the day, even for just 10 or 15 seconds, I think brought a lot of people together. It actually ended up bringing us a lot of joy too, because it gave us a way to kind of check out of reality for a little bit when it seemed like the world was kind of crashing around us. Gave us a little bit of a check out from reality to kind of let loose and just have fun. I wasn't on the app for the longest time, and I wasn't going to be. But then it just kind of skyrocketed from there.
Well, and she's being nice too. It was, I was severely depressed, because Taylor and we had finally gotten to this point where we signed this really big account, and we invested all of our money in the linen and the terry in our cleaning company for the upcoming season. And then that day, the governor shut down the beaches to try and keep everybody safe. Well, we also lost everything that day too. And it's not like I could go out and get a job either.
Nowhere was hiring. At that time. I mean, restaurants were shutting down, so it's not like you could go and just get a job at a restaurant serving or bartending or something like that, because where we're at, that is a very popular job because there's so many, but that wasn't an option. Nowhere was hiring. Everywhere was on hiring freezes, or they were having to lay people off because of what was going on.
Mm-hmm. And so I was in the garage one day, and somebody had sent me, I wish I remembered who it was. Somebody sent me something, And I thought the app was something totally different. I just thought it was a bunch of young people shaking their butts. And then I saw this video and I downloaded it and then started posting my stupid stuff. And my brother came over because he had seen some of it. He's like, "You look like crap. Go take a shower and use this ring light." And then I turned that ring light on. I was like, wow, I look so much better than I do in real life with this thing. And then we went through this. There was this phase that kind of blew up where no one believed Taylor was actually real, because once I got that ring light, like people would compete for like the like kind of naughty comments, and then I just reply to it.
Oh gosh, they were so naughty.
They were crazy, and it was really fun, and we got a really big kick out of it. And I just basically pair the comment with an audio I thought would fit, and then I'd wink at a certain time during it, and that was it. And then
believe it or not, his TikTok success started out with him not saying anything. Like he was actually quiet.
Right.
That actually, if we had just stayed there, life would probably be a lot easier. But it's funny because we never got into it to like try and help people. We were just getting into it to, or at least I was getting it to try.
But so that's one of my things though that I think is very interesting is that I'm not a regular social media person. Just not because I have anything against it. I just forget about it. Like I have a lot of other stuff. So in my brain, for me, like I don't know. I just forget about it. I don't think about it. Probably looking at mountain bike crap or something. But like the fact is it existed, it happened. And then this big pivot comes along, whether you want to call it Kismet, the universe, God, whatever you want to associate with it. But something comes along and eventually you start realizing that there's this community that's kind of rallied around you and you guys start doing this whole positivity thing. And then this vibe starts going. And in the world of social media where it's, in my opinion, this is solely my opinion, often very negative, it was like a beacon of light of like, man, this stuff is fun. So I proxy TikTok. I don't know if there's a term for that yet, but I'm making it up now. Proxy TikTok is where you watch through your significant other. And so what I do is I watch through my spouse. Like, I'm like, hey, can you show me Ed's TikTok for today? Just because like, I won't remember so it's terrible. Yeah. It's not like I'm like, there's a Russian, that's not where I'm going, but I'm just saying like, I sit there and watch it. So this goodness happens. So how does this positivity and this goodness move come through, like this sort of vibe that changes? You're winking at cameras, doing this thing, and now all of a sudden it's like, what happens there to cause that to happen?
Yeah, so creator out in Utah, his name's JT Laybourne. He's a heart warrior, and
I don't know what that means, by the way.
So,
pardon my ignorance.
Can you define that a bit better?
So he, I don't know the correct medical terminology, but hi, baby.
Hi. Oh, it's a special guest.
Evelyn's back.
Cold, yeah. That's what you were coming over here for. She saw a cold can.
She loves the cold cans.
Baby.
Oh yeah. What? I don't have a phone. Sorry.
You want to get a Coke?
You want to go get a Coke? Yes, she can take you to get one.
She'll take you to get Coca-Cola.
Nope.
She'll take you to
she
get
says
Coca-Cola.
You know you want one. It may or may not be real Coca-Cola, but it's
Go get you a bottle. Ball?
She's looking for the ball.
Ball's out there.
Have you got it?
Nope.
Yes.
Go get the ball. Good girl.
Good job, baby.
Doesn't get more raw than this show. Go ahead. You were talking about
so when he was younger, he had to have open heart surgery for a heart condition.
Got it.
And then fast forward to pandemic times, he ended up having to have another open heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know the correct medical terminology of what it was, of what his heart condition or heart surgery was, but that constitutes him as a heart warrior.
And our nephew's a heart.
My nephew's a heart warrior too.
So, and one night I was in my house. He had called me a few years ago and said, I just got off the phone with the American Heart Association and said I raised them $25,000 by the end of the year. And I think I replied, done. And he's like, well, how are we going to do it? And I was like, I don't know, but we're going to do it. And
well, because at the time too, the American Heart Association had to cancel all of their fundraising events.
Right.
They're used to having large galas.
Oh, so look, I have goosebumps from that because that tells me it's like universally kismet.
Yeah. So they usually have all of these in-person events or whatever to raise all of their money, and they had to cancel all of those. So all of their fundraising that they would typically have in a year was gone.
Good grief.
And so one night we're sitting I had a old tuxedo that I had from a Mardi Gras ball, red tuxedo. And I told Taylor, I came out and I was like, I think I'm going to go live. I want to go live for the American Heart Association, and I want to try and surprise them and raise $500 while they're at dinner.
Right.
And she's like, okay. So I went. I had pajama pants on, I think.
It was pajama pants and the
tuxedo top.
Reddish, is it that reddish looking one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My red tuxedo jacket, and then all the tuxedo like trappings on top, and then pajama pants. And I went in my office and I put there's a donate sticker that you can add to live, and all the money goes directly. It goes to Tiltify, but 100% of the proceeds go to the American Heart Association. And I said, 94 minutes later, we had raised $54,000.
Holy smokes!
It was unreal.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of the people, like sometimes if I tell that story, people like telling you now, it's like, well, a lot of people are like, well, how'd you do it? I sat there and I cried the whole time.
Right.
That's basically it. I said, well, if we hit this, I'll put the jacket on or something. And then it just kind of went. And then I just sat there and I sobbed.
It's
and
really,
it was crazy.
I really think it's just a testament to the community that we have built on the platform. Everyone that was in there had some type of relation to a heart story. They had some type of personal story that they related to, and they wanted to support. And so that's really where it all came through, and people were just so gracious and so giving. And it was, I mean, I was watching from our living room couch and just in awe that so many people were like, I know someone that had this condition, or so-and-so had a heart attack, or this or that, and wanting to spread awareness about heart conditions in general, and also in support of our friends too.
Yeah, well, and I really didn't, and I don't. I think it's important to talk about good things that happen because I think the community deserves the credit.
Right.
I don't think it's about, it really isn't, like at that point too. Don't get me wrong. Like at the beginning of TikTok, I loved it. Like, oh, I feel like I look good because everybody's saying it and they're leaving these comments and all this stuff. And it was like,
well, we got to talk about the fact that there is an endorphin hit that comes from that we can't deny.
Oh,
like nobody can. And it's the same endorphin hit that like I get if someone responds to a comment. Let's say you put something out and it doesn't matter what it is, right? Yeah. I'm juxtaposing this. A video went live yesterday. This is, by the way, completely raw. Like there's none of this is staged, just so anybody listening knows this is like legit. Yeah. So we have a video go live yesterday. It's your announcement video, right? Yes. You announce this video and I watch it and we're laughing because we're seeing numbers and you're telling me numbers here. I don't have the TikToks, but I can see it on Instagram. Like, man, that's a lot. Yeah. So juxtapose today, I drop a mountain bike video that we were very proud of, right? And we got like 4 likes. Now, all I'm saying
is very good ones.
I'm not comparing those. Yeah. But you can't help but in the reality of the thing go, man, that's a good feeling when those numbers come through. So for me, what happens is I look at it differently. It's a quality situation. Like I know who impacted that video. I don't know 5,000 people who it impacted.
Yeah.
That's what the last time I saw the likes. It was around that. Point being is like, that's got to be a hit. How does that affect you when you're looking at this stuff to stay positive? I mean, that's got to be it's got to be an ups and downs game.
Very much so.
Well,
very much.
I remember, I think it was a week after we downloaded TikTok, I hit 10,000 followers and I felt famous. And like, cause some of my friends were like, went to the beach, and they're like, he has 10,000 followers on Facebook. Shout out to Facebook.
Somewhere Zucky is smiling bigly.
Yeah.
That dude's mentioned me.
I'm like, I have a special surprise for you. And Zuckerberg walks in. Wouldn't that be crazy? Hey, Mark.
He's a robot. He comes in, his Android version is like, hello, it is me, Mark. Hello.
But I felt like so cool. And I felt like I had gone live at that point. You had to have 1,000 followers to go live. And I was sitting in my garage one night. And, I don't know how many people were there or whatever. But when I got done, people sent me gifts. Well, I didn't really realize, or maybe I did at the time. I was like, it equaled money. So here I am without a job. I can't get one. I can't do anything to help provide for my family. I can't go out there. I'm getting this like kind of hit of excitement. And then I get off the live and realize I made $40. I made $40 in 2 hours.
Can we juxtapose one thing though? And I won't obviously talk. I don't know how much location you guys talk about, but the area in which you live is a tourism-based area.
Yeah.
Okay to say.
Gulf Shores.
When I didn't know how much you deploy. Yep. So when we say to somebody, like when you say that, people need to understand like 90% of its business is tourism or more.
90 or more, I would say.
Well, the business is, I would say 100% tourism.
Yeah, I mean, mostly.
So Gulf Shore. All right, so we're talking about 100% tourism. So for you to say, it's not like you couldn't go get a job. There's literally, during the pandemic, zero work. There's nothing even available.
Well, and I think any of those, maybe those few areas in Gulf Shores that aren't directly related, even if they're not directly a tourism business, they're all related to tourism in some way or a business that is. And so if it just, you couldn't. Even the ones that aren't related to tourism weren't hiring either.
Right.
Well, I think some of the only ones that they're not directly related to tourism, but are impacted by tourism, like grocery stores.
Yep.
But all of those shut down too.
Right.
And you were having to order groceries for pickup or for delivery or something like that.
And it's not like that area is a very large infrastructure of people. So like if it's off season, which we would have been getting close to spring break, right?
It was right at spring break.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably ramped up with people, but at the same time, if they don't have anywhere to go, the taxation on that system gets crazy. The only reason I bring that up is because I think it's interesting that I understand, and I think a lot of us would relate to the idea of suddenly during the pandemic when there's not a lot of work, $40, as my buddy would say, $40 is $40. That's pretty dadgum good, right?
It was the first time I was able to provide.
You would have swore he won the lottery.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Oh, it's great.
$40.
I remember
and I was like,
being in and out of the garage, and I was so jacked. I was like, I'm gonna go live all the time. I'm never gonna stop. And then, too, what I think was cool about it was it gave me a sense of something to be excited about the app.
It gave you a purpose, essentially.
Yeah, I guess it did, and it's not one. It's a very different purpose now, and obviously that big night, which a lot of people are aware of, was. And then the night after we did the 54,000, the community did that. I think another creator friend of ours went live, did 20 grand. I think the next night another JT did, I think, and we did that all together. It was 120 or 150 grand.
Within 3 days.
That's insane.
3 days. So it was probably 200,000 in 3 days.
So what I think is interesting though is like that's again, it's a one good thing moment, right?
Yes.
You have this platform that is giving you $40 is $40, right?
Yes.
You have that, but that's not the pivot. The pivot, the reality, what happens that shifts everything is suddenly you do something. And just for goodness, right? It's just that's a one good thing. You just said, "Hey, I'm just going to do a good thing," and you go live and do this. I don't think you imagined. Obviously, you didn't imagine it would go that direction.
No.
But do you then define that? Does that become, because you took a risk and did this one good thing? Does that become a life changing, like a life defining, life shifting moment for you guys?
I think it shifted a lot of things. It really kind of. Was the starting point of a huge movement, in my opinion. Because then a few months later, we got together with JT and his wife and another family, the Henrys, and we did another fundraising event for the American Heart Association because they were so grateful that an online community. They had never seen anything like that before.
Right.
It hadn't been done before. I mean, TikTok hadn't even seen it before. But we got together in February and did another fundraising event and raised, I can't even remember, I think it was over $200,000 in one night or one weekend. Something.
It was over 400, I think, that weekend.
Okay, yeah.
It might have been over 400.
That's
I think
insane.
that weekend, and we had the help of Wayne Brady and
Andy Grammer.
Mandy
Right.
and their amazing families, and Andy Grammer and
AJ
AJ
McLean.
McLean from the Backstreet Boys, the Real Indian Dad, who's an amazing creator, Sheena Melwani, amazing singer, artist. Other creators joined the live. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. It was just a whirlwind. I mean, it was nuts, and everybody did it. Now, there were some other, I'll say, celebrities that were gonna be involved, and they weren't. There were some times where I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this right now. I was on the phone with the American Heart Association, but no, to some of the, because they weren't getting it, or they weren't understanding that this wasn't about us.
Right.
Or it wasn't about them. It was about coming together and for other people who are struggling. I'm not a heart warrior, but I feel like I know a lot of them, and now I care about them. I didn't not care. I just didn't even know.
Well, there's something you said, but you made the connection though. Like you made a one-to-one connection. Yeah. Even though this is what's crazy to me about this scenario. Like if, and again, I'm audience at home. I run an agency. My job is trying to connect to people. But what's wild about this is the kind of thing I can't manufacture it. Yeah. This is a one-to-one relationship that suddenly you have with thousands upon thousands of people that you may or may not ever meet, but there's something so intimate. And in fairness to you, and you guys both, but it started with Ed and Taylor came on board. You connected. There's something that happens with your content and you specifically. There's other people this way, but in this case, you're here. They connect on a level that's really raw, and you connect like with this vulnerability and this rawness that just drives home a grand slam.
Sorry.
Okay, proof of life.
Hi. Hi. Oh, thank you. Here. There you go. Okay.
Coca-Cola?
She said, I saw it.
What'd you think? Is that a kitty?
What you said? You can't look at me and walk. That's not how it works.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Careful.
Sit.
Would you like to sit up here? Is that okay for her to sit up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hi, baby. You gotta listen, okay?
So I guess my point is that I think what's interesting is that there's a vulnerability and a rawness that comes through in your particular and in those moments that triggered a series of events. So I'm not saying that I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason, and there's a series of events that occur. You sitting in this chair in a garage that connects to, meeting JT or whatever the case is, and then having this conversation, and then the pandemic is happening. So all of us are what was amazing. The world went through a crisis, but people gave. If you go back and look statistically,
and I also think it gave people a sense of hope, because everyone was coming together for this common good. And even though we weren't in person, we were all there virtually, and it felt like we were all in the same room.
Yep.
And it's really hard to explain how that feels, because we weren't all in the same room.
Right.
With these thousands of people that showed up, whether they just tuned in to show support or they were able to give or whatever it was, it was this sense of community. And I think that sense of community has carried over and continued even till now.
Well, and I think what I'm going to say, and I don't think I've ever said this anywhere ever on
exclusive.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exclusive announcement here on the We Don't Know What It's Called podcast yet, but I talked about me. So when I download it, I'd see all these people doing all these hard dances and all these difficult trends and everything. I'm like, why are people working this hard? Like, just sit there and stare and wink at the right time. It's easy. And
right.
I'm sure that frustrated some people that I was growing and they were working so hard. And it's like, this guy just sits there and winks and doesn't do anything. But I think I also at that point, I think when I pressed that button, I think I needed a sign of hope. And I think I needed to, because I sat there and I'd be like, I am never going to cry on the internet. Why are these people crying on the internet? I'm never going to cry on TikTok. I'm never going to dance. And I pressed that button with a goal of $500, and I cried the whole time. And I've been crying since. You know, I mean, it's like if something I see I'm like Harry and Lloyd and the Dumb and Dumber. They see a Hallmark commercial. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm emotional, and it released something in me that helped me, and I think maybe people related to that. Obviously, they did it. It did, and they did it. I was the schmuck in front of the camera that cried, you know.
Well, what's interesting is that I almost see it more like you served as like a connector, right? You were a conduit for that stuff, because all those people independently. They could have all done the same thing. They could have all given independently. Yeah. But you were the conduit in which they all channeled that in. And for whatever reason, everybody connected, that energy connected, and suddenly, bloop, everybody's giving. Because it becomes this thing. It becomes like this, wow, it's not just tribalism. It's like, I want to be part of that because it's a good thing. And they felt it and they could see it and energize off of it.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because we could get the stats from the American Heart Association too. I couldn't tell you how many countries donated to the American Heart Association, but all over the world.
Right.
And the average donation of all this money raised was like $5.
Right.
That's how many there were.
That's crazy.
And then we effectively, we kept, throughout some of these, we kept breaking the meter, because TikTok had never set the number of donations that high.
Right.
Or the number that could be donated that high. And then during our big live with some of the celebrity folks and all that stuff, we had some of the artists, you know, AJ from the Backstreet Boys was so gracious and performs a song. Wayne performed brilliantly, and his team and family, and Andy Grammer performed well. The algorithm blocked it from all the other countries, and Canada being a big one, because and the UK. Because the rights to
copyrights
to the music.
Oh,
and it was their music.
So what we ended up having was some of our followers in the US live streamed their computer screen.
Rob was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Wow. So they looped it. They looped around it.
Yes. So it was live from their account, but it was only streaming our screens.
And they put they put the sticker up. I know, he put the sticker up on his live, and then held our live up so everyone could see it
and still donate, so people
and
in the
still
UK
donate
could
on
still
his
see
live.
it.
Genius.
I have goosebumps from it.
That's genius.
I mean, I still think a few $1,000s were raised that way, because we didn't have any control over it.
Right.
Our contacts with American Heart Association and their contacts with TikTok couldn't figure out how to fix it in the moment, and so we had people that just took it upon themselves and were like, we want everyone to be able to do this.
How great is that? Like, what a pivot. A
was
worldly
insane.
pivot. That's a world pivot. That's not just, that's like a problem and solving it with like, hey, fix it. Just figure it out.
Well, and it's like, it also makes you think, it's like, well, licensing issues and everything. It's like, life finds a way, you know, Jeff Goldblum.
That's 100%.
Like, life finds a way. And especially when it's something that is for good and serious. And I understand why it did it. I don't blame that. But, you know, it was funny too, because there's the on front of the camera live, and then I'd go from so emotional and powerful, and then I'd get off camera, and I was screaming in the other room on the phone, trying to figure out ways we could get it fixed. And it hadn't really happened before.
Right.
Like, it hadn't really happened, and then it did. And then I think TikTok's learned a lot from it, and I've seen, I mean, TikTok's raised, you know, without getting too political, you know, they want to shut the, you know,
sure.
I don't think any U.S. citizen wants our private data in the hands of people who shouldn't have it.
That's
no matter
right.
who that is.
Right.
And I don't know who or who not, but I think there is something to be said, and something that needs to be talked about is the lives that have been saved because of the platform.
Yeah.
And to not
the hope that it's given.
The hope that it's given, the countless messages. I can't name one person who has lost their life because of a TikTok data breach.
Right.
And I've done a lot of research. I can give you thousands of names of people who have been saved.
Right.
And that's what should be talked about too.
That's the interesting side is like a lot of it, you know, we hear all the negativity and all these things and you go the other direction with it and it's very easy. So I always call that the lowest hanging fruit. Negativity is a low hanging fruit. You have to climb a lot of times to get to the good fruit, right? The lower stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times in these cases, I feel like we have to climb. We have to look past the easy negativity just to get, oh, it's all bad. It's all bad. Yes. And there is. And there's good too. But what I'm saying is you guys are transcending beyond dances. This is transcending beyond trends. This is going into like literally benefiting human life across the globe, right?
Yes.
That's a big deal. And that's a big shift when you go back and look at those things. Cause I mean, I'm going to get as raw and if you want to cut it out, you can tell me later, but is that taxing? Do you find that taxing? Do you ever feel like at the end of those things, like, is there a moment where you just like, it drains your energy? It pulls your energy down?
Yeah. It's quite terrible, really.
Yeah.
You know, there's
what do you mean by that though?
So I think when you've been able to be about a part of something like that, I think it changes I know it at least changed me. I haven't slept much since I downloaded TikTok.
Right. It's not funny, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I think it is funny too, because I think a lot of people can turn it off. I've never really been one that can.
But do you think that some of that is not from like, it's not, I've been around you and on this project as well. And it's not, I don't think it's the fact that you're not saying you can't turn TikTok off. I think you can't turn your brain off, because I think what you found is you found some level of, it's like me, you're a business owner too, but I can't turn my brain off for this stuff. Like I leave here and go home and my brain's still working and I don't have control over it. I can shut it down for a little while, but it's still there. That's what you're referring to. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say this, that I don't even know if we can talk about this, and I think this is part of the problem, but we can't talk about suicide on social media.
Right.
You can't talk about it because, and I understand why, you know, they don't want anybody to hurt. It's like, well, who can you talk to?
Right.
You know, or who can people talk to? And they find, so if you can't do that, you got to provide hope. Yep. And so it's like, if you saw somebody drowning right now, or knew somebody was drowning outside, would you try and help them if you had the ability, or you had a life raft up here? I would hope you would.
Right.
And I know I would. And sometimes I can't tell you, I've been on the phone with 911 in every single state more times than I can count. Biggest issue is, I think a major issue is I like communicating like this or on the phone. I don't like texting. I don't like going back and forth like that. I get confused. It overwhelms me. I overread things. I read it too much or not enough into I just don't like it. And I think one of the biggest issues one of the scariest things to me is the preferred method of communication for a lot of people is texting, and 911 doesn't have a text line.
Yeah, but 911 also, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, there's no way even a lot of them, there's no face-to-face conversation. Right? And those human cues, I mean, we're human beings. If we sight, sounds, smells, all of it is part of our human experience, that when we're communicating, all of that information goes in, whether we're conscious of it or not. And I'm not saying that, like, there's some spaces where I don't have a great sniffer, so I can't smell as well, or you know, maybe I wear glasses, whatever it is, those things fine, but your body offsets those and picks it up. All those cues are still there. Like, we're still getting those. So when we're having this communication and talking about suicide, somebody who deals with it personally, me, and having that side of things, there's nothing worse than that, than feeling alone. Correct. So if there's a face, at least, even if it's alive, like a live TikTok or whatever, maybe that's a connection point for somebody. Is that where?
I think that's a lot of what it is. It gives people something to look forward to. They've connected on some level to the content that he puts out or that I put out, or, you know, whoever, and they connect to it on some level. It gives them some beacon of hope or some burst of happiness. And so they come back for more, and they look forward to that each time that they open up the app. I have a background working in mental health. I worked with children and teenagers doing therapy for 6.5 years. And it's just access to mental health care is very hard.
Right.
And it takes you longer to get started with mental health services than it does to like apply for a job.
Yeah.
There is a stack of paperwork that's an inch thick that you have to go through, and it's intimidating. I mean, I used to look through it because I was doing it. I was having people fill it out, and it is very intimidating, and that I think scares a lot of people off. And so I think, you know, having an alternative access point to that hope or that happiness or that burst of positivity is a way for people, in a sense, getting their own kind of therapy.
That's a good point.
Even if it's not conversing back and forth with someone, they are receiving a message that you're giving out. Even if you're doing a funny dance or you're, you know, posting inspiring words,
right,
or something like that, or raising money for a charity, people are connecting to that. They were at that time, they still are now, connecting to that in some way, shape, or form. And that is giving them that burst of happiness or hope or positivity, you know, whatever it is, they're connecting to it.
Well, I think I had a real hard time too, like after, and I'm still like learning this, and some of this is like brand new to me even, because I'm still trying to learn why I often say to Taylor, I hate my brain because I can't stop. And I also understand if it's helped somebody, the message, you're not alone, that's fantastic. That doesn't work for me when it's 4 a.m. and everyone I know is sleeping and I can't talk to anyone.
Sure.
Or I couldn't even talk to anyone if I wanted to. Knowing that I'm not alone or I'm not on my own and feeling that does help me personally. And so connecting with people, it's like who have felt that way before. And it's like,
sure.
Hey, I've felt that way before. And tell you what, it's okay to feel that way. But I'm not, because I felt that way too. There's nothing wrong with that, but we want to get you, I want to help you. What can I do to help you?
Yeah, we'll talk about it a later date because there's other conversations we'll have. But the thing that drives me nuts is I'll tell my story about, you know, I had a big life-changing event that it definitively helped shift my brain away from that, like some real dark challenges. The thing about it for me was I could tell people what I was feeling. I can rationalize. Like, I fully understand that I have a wife. I have 2 children who are beautiful. I literally did my dream. I made movies for a living. That's what I did professionally. Someone was dumb enough to give me $10 million and say, go make 5 movies. And I did it. So I made, they said make movies, and I tried to diversify the money. I make as many as I can when I have the chance of a dream. But it didn't matter. In my brain, the gnawing that was eating away inside of me was like do you remember the movie Aliens? The chest bursters that ripped out? It was like that. Like something was inside of me that wanted to get out. And what it wanted to do is get out and kill me.
Yeah.
And wanted me to kill me. But I could tell that to people and say, I know that it's not. I understand. And they'd be like, well, just don't think about it. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's the thing about the community that's so very, very important is at least then I know somebody maybe has dealt with that and is like, oh no, I get it. Like when somebody's really gone through it and you have that one-to-one, that's a huge deal.
Correct.
I think that people too, you know, through our community, at least I've seen it a lot, people are seeing that they relate to other people in the sense that you're saying, oh, you have felt that way too, or this person has felt that way too. I'm not alone in feeling that way. And people realizing, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Well, and anybody that's felt like that or whoever's watching this or whatever, I know at least 100% of at least 1 million people that have felt something like that.
Right.
And that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's not a question. And I'm not saying everybody that follows me or follows us are those people, but if a big number is 10 and a big number is 100, then if you look around the world and don't think we need help, or that's the difference in the community too, that we're a part of and get to be a part of, is they're not, well, just don't think about it. We treat each other as it's like, oh my gosh, what can I do for you? Is there anything I could do? I'll sit up with you all night. I actually thought about this. I don't even know if I told you about the show that we're doing. I thought about the first episode at some point. I was like, this is too crazy. But I thought about the first episode being me and maybe Taylor or whoever would sit there with me, and we just sit in the living room for 8 hours. Well, someone sleeps.
Right.
Just so they feel like, because I remember that. It's like when my dad could be, my dad traveled and stuff a lot, and there were some other things, and my dad's great guy, but my house made scary noises when my dad wasn't at home.
Yep.
It didn't make scary noises when he was.
Yep. And I just canceled the trip for that reason, because my kids were saying something like, and it clicked in my brain. It's like I was going on I was going to make money.
Yeah.
But I was parlaying it, and it realized so I could do like some riding up in North Alabama, and I was like, why am I doing that? Like my kids she's dealing, these storms are horrific that we've been having, and Pearl does not sleep through those. So it's like, why am I going to cause fear in my child for some stupid mountain bike thing for me, right? I need my own exit, but I don't need that.
Well, you have two of the most well-behaved and amazing angels that we've ever met, and you're an extraordinary father, and I'm not saying it because I like you. I'm saying it because of a decision like that.
Yeah.
And not because if your decision had been the other way,
but it wasn't growing up. My dad would go hunt, and he would put hunting above all. So the thing that I think is fascinating about all of your stuff, and I just listened to you, just watching, is one of the things that I think is really interesting is we have a past. We all have a past, and we have a choice to make. My grandfather said this years ago. He was a shrimper. So I don't know why sales. You'll understand why the word sales. It doesn't make sense because shrimp boats don't have sales. But here's what he told me. He told me a long time ago, you have a choice. You have a choice to say that your past can either be an anchor or it can be the wind in your sails.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of times, like for me, where I would find myself in that spot is I let my past be that anchor, and it would just hold me in. I wasn't growing. I wasn't chasing growth. Yeah. And so eventually that past became, oh, wait a second. I learned from it, learned from the mistakes that others made. I'm not going to make that mistake. And I try hard, like even my own parents, God love them. I'm going to try and shift.
Yeah.
The reason I bring that part up is to slightly segue into that's growth.
Yeah.
You guys have grown on the channel. And one of those, listen to this masterful segue maneuver. And one of those ways that you've grown is you've decided to put out brand new content.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
You're not feeling the vibe? I gave myself goosebumps on it. I was pretty hyped.
I was excited. I could hear Evelyn coming in. I was like so stressed out. I was like, he's going to hit something huge here. And then Evelyn, I could hear her coming. I have my dad mode on. I was like, don't ruin Drew's moment. Don't ruin Drew's moment. And you still got yours. You gave yourself goosebumps. Yeah. But Evelyn,
that's some pompous goosebumps right there. I had some cocky goosebumps. Pompy goosebumps. Pompous.
There's a lot of ways we can mix those words
up.
We're not going to go. I don't think we should go any further. But I'm going to get goosebumps when I watch it, because then I'll know that I'll watch it after Evelyn's gone to bed. And
my point, though, is that you guys have made a shift, and you had this. What led to the point? Because we all knew Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
And you're 10 years younger than me, so I'm 10 years ahead of you. So I've lived with him. He's been in my psyche for a very long time. So what happens that makes you go, wait a second? You talked about it earlier but there had to be. Trace it back. Was it the community? What drove you? What just ticked that little box off to launch it in your brain?
I think a huge part of it was having a child of our own.
Yeah.
And it really puts the world in a different perspective, seeing the world in a whole different lens, good and bad. But I think, really want her to grow up in a world that is different.
Right.
You know, and times are different from when we were kids, when we were her age, and, you know, when we were 5, 10, 15 years old. Times have changed since then. But there's so much darkness in the world, and I think that we don't want children to grow up thinking that everything is bad, and we don't want our own daughter growing up thinking that everything is bad all the time. And I think that, you know, one good thing that Fred did was shining a positive light in what felt like a dark time probably for some people. They could look forward to turning on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when they got home from school, or, you know, whatever, and they enjoyed watching it. So I think giving that in a modern way, times aren't the same as they were in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that when his show was first coming out. But I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but
well, I think technology is a fantastic thing. I think it can be a really devastating thing too.
Sure.
And I know that the number one job that teenagers want in China when they grow up is astronaut.
Of course.
The number one job that teenagers want in the United States when they grow up, influencer.
Yeah.
That word makes me gag anyways. It didn't
it's
used to.
not
I was like, oh,
that
cool,
great
I'm an influencer.
anyway.
It's really quite awful. So there's amazing things that can happen because of it, though. And I think when you get to egos get in the way, mine has before. It feels cool. Like if you post a video and you're like, oh my gosh, 10,000 people have seen it. I'm important.
Right.
It's like, well, I always was important. 10,000, and I mean that humbly. Like, it's like, what is that makes it feel like, made me feel that way? I feel like social media, like I've gone through times where it's like, and I feel like people go through times where it's like, when you think you're so important, that's usually when you were humbled.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about it the wrong way. When you think you're not important, that's when you don't realize how important you are.
Right.
And I don't know if that makes sense, but my arms just went because I've never really said it that way, but that's what I feel. And anytime you start to get like this, pray to be humbled. You will be, and I think it's something you should ask for. And I think surrounding yourself. I think love and discipline are very important. I highly recommend. The people that have hurt me the most in my life don't have the ability to say I'm sorry. Or I haven't ever heard it from them with any meaning behind it. And they don't believe in something bigger than themselves. And you could believe in something. It doesn't have to be God or a deity or whatever. I have my preference and I believe what I believe. But you have to believe in something, whether it's a book or an idea or a concept or yourself. Even yourself. I have a hard time believing in myself. And like a kid, it's funny, like if somebody recognizes us or something and a kid comes up, I was a little kid too, or a younger kid, and quite an ornery one. It's like, kid's like, oh my gosh, he's on TikTok. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's like, well, he's got a blue check. And he's like, oh, really? It's like, what does that even mean?
Right.
I don't even know what that means.
Right.
I know what it means, but I don't know what it means. It felt cool for 5 minutes. And then it was like, okay, now what's next? And I've always had a really hard time after we've had a hard time, or I won't speak for you, but personally, after big, amazing things have happened, or really felt things or amazing things for others have happened, I've had a really hard time coming back from it because I just feel it. And hi, baby.
She had a near stumble moment.
Hi, baby.
Over nothing.
Over your own 2 feet, huh? Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I also understand, and I've said this before, and I'm not comparing myself to like a famous person or whatever, but I said it to Taylor. I understand why some of the greats have left.
Yeah.
And they feel alone. You can have everyone around you and feel alone.
Oh no, that's what I mean. I totally get it. I mean, there's a point in which the thing that I would say, outside perspective, right?
Yeah.
So we're working on this because, and I told you, I'm involved in the project with you because I think it was important.
He's the director, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's important, but the reason I'm here is I don't have a TikTok account. Mm-hmm. Can't tag me in that. I gain nothing from it. I have an Instagram account, but I don't really care if you ever publish it or not. If you tag my business, that helps me. So I appreciate it. I have a business and I'm responsible for 10, 12 people.
That up in the podcast.
Yeah, big time.
Website. You can put it on my forehead.
Yeah.
Check it out.
I'm responsible for a bunch of people's lives. But the reason I'm here is because I believe in the mission. And I think one thing that some of us struggle with when we get put in charge, whether we like it or not, whether the universe does it or not, is we hit this thing. It's called imposter syndrome. You ever heard of this?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, I don't know if that's what you're dealing with, but I will tell you this, just person to person, right? Bro to bro, person, human. you're where you are because you're supposed to be there right now. And the crazy part is, I always take it, I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think you've done this. I think your community does it, which I think is absolutely amazing. Whether it's 1 point whatever million followers or just one, they're all equal.
Yes.
Right? So at the end of the day, where you are, if you help one person or you help 1+ million people, doesn't matter. It's exactly the same. Because at the end of the day, a life is a life. And so I think what you're doing is really, really fascinating. I think what you're doing, and I think you're supposed to be here. Y'all are supposed to be here. I think if you go back and really scrutinize your life, there's probably a series of events that secretly prepped you for this moment.
Well,
I think that every high and low that we have experienced prior to getting on social media and since being on social media has led us to this point. I'm a firm believer in that, 100%. And it may not all make sense in the moment, but it's starting to make sense that these, like you said, these series of events, I feel have led us to where we are, have called us to do this, if that even makes sense. Not just for our own family, but for families everywhere. And I think that, all of us still have a little bit of kid inside of us. We never truly grow up 100%.
Right.
And I think one of our goals is to not just help the next generation, but help our own generation too, because we can all, I think, benefit from
what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think what the community collectively is going to do with us. And they're writing it, or they've written it, or it's not about actors. Like, there might be actors on the show. I wanted Dwayne Johnson to play the mailman
Right.
on the show, and and he's been very good to us.
And we're working on it.
It's in the works.
Just say we're in negotiations.
We're in negotiations.
It's one-sided right now, but maybe
anything can happen. Anything can happen.
I think and I will say this, and please keep it in here. You might cut it out or whatever.
I'm not editing this. It's raw. That's the point.
Yeah.
Babies interrupting the whole thing.
Yeah. And I told Taylor this, I told Drew this the other night, that if you had told me that Drew was going to be
now
involved,
I am cutting this part out then.
Well, you've given me all these compliments. This is a guy that I've looked up to, and we've worked together for a really long time. And when I told my dad, I had a director who's like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, "No, Dad, like, he's the guy that did," and I had to put it in so he'd recognize. He's like, "Does he know I've been in a movie?" Because he ended up in Indianapolis a lot more than I did.
Right.
And I got him in it.
Right.
And so he gives me crap all the time about it. But I said, "It's the guy that directed the Shoe Station commercial." He's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, he's really good." And I was like, "Will you give me some credit?" I almost busted my face 10 times on that thing, but it was so much fun.
So realistic.
It's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
If you ever tried to be a runner, that is legitimately what would happen to you.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was a great time. But we had a blast. It didn't feel like work.
No, but that's what everything's supposed to be. So this is airing after we filmed what we're calling a pilot.
Yes.
Right. And look at that watch. I think we were there. I think I calculated I got there roughly at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And I left at like 11:30 p.m.
Yep.
So it was an 8-hour run. A lot happened in that 8 hours.
Sure.
We had things and we were figuring stuff out. We had to light it for the first time. There's a lot. So don't think it took us exactly that long. But I say that to say, like, it's exploratory on purpose.
It's like the prologue, maybe?
Kind of. Yeah, it feels
I was
that way.
thinking of that. It's like, is it episode 1? Yeah, kind of. Is it a prologue? Like a rough prologue?
Like, here's where it was.
It's like, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
It's going to get better and cleaner.
I just don't want to trip on that one cable right there.
Baby. You don't want to trip on the cable,
She wants to hang with the
I love you. Do you want a hug?
You got to watch.
But I was thinking about this too. If you watch back Fred's stuff, it's not that overproduced. It's very simple.
Because it doesn't have to be.
And complex at the same time.
Well, it's for children.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing that we were talking about on set one day. Like one portion of the thing, we got in there, we started vibing, and I just looked at that and was like, man, this is for kids. And he's like, you're right. Like both of us just went to this mode of like, not autopilot, but kind of like confident creator mode. Right?
Yeah.
And this is a challenge because it reverses it. The thing that I think is interesting is that it looks retro right now. And as we go, I think it's going to modernize and it's going to become its own thing. It's going to literally grow into something, right? And it's sprouting, but we don't know what we've planted yet.
Well, and I think you told me, we all know it happened because we were all there, but you told me there's a scene where I'm supposed to say, I love you to Taylor. And when I was speaking downwind, I said I love you straight to the camera.
That's correct.
And not to Taylor.
But then you turned back to Taylor. You like reversed the whole gag.
I love you. And I was like, I turn your head to Taylor and say I love you. And I turned my head from Taylor to the camera and I said I love you to the camera and to Drew and to everyone watching. Which is
so
cool.
I see where I stand.
Well, what's cool is all the way around. I love you. But it was not the way this scene was supposed to go. But I thought it was awesome.
But that's the point, is it's this raw thing, and that's what it is. And I think the other side of that is this is the extension of that. This is the extension to say, we're talking about overview here because I think it's important. Because there's going to be people that come across this or watch this that need to understand where it comes from. It comes from a very humble place. It comes from a very honest place, right? There are some people that they're community. They know this stuff. They know it. Like they've heard it. They've heard you talk about it. They lived it because they were there with you. They helped build it. Yeah. So this is as much a celebration of them as us just having this convo. So it works on multiple levels. So if you're part of the community, hey, thank you. Well, like this is you. Pat yourself on the back. This is all of us talking together. But if you're new, it's a whole nother experience. What I think is really interesting is this gets to be the raw conversation. And I imagine down the road, if we continue this the way it goes, that if we were to go, and the first episode's about friends, right? And this is a separate podcast from that. But if we go into a conversation where the one good thing is just friends, that we have war stories, we have tales of highs and lows, we have these great emotional moments, that when we share those are raw, those are adults talking. So this is a chance for us to communicate to the other parents, to the other adults, to the other big kids in the room, right? Yeah. And I think it's really fascinating that what you have now is you have the ability to communicate to multiple levels.
Well, and I think too, each episode plays on real life experience.
Right.
Our first episode is about friends, and a lot of the dialogue that we had during the episode came from real experience. And, we don't say in the episode, in my experience, in my time, nothing like that. But it all comes from a place of experience. And I think that's one of the best ways that we can teach others, whether it's kids or adults or whatever, is speaking on our own real life experiences, because it really does shape who we are as individuals. I think it helps us grow into the people that we are, the people that we're becoming, what this show is becoming too.
Well, and I think too, I was thinking about this on the way over here and thinking about hi baby. I think if kids want to be like an influencer, however you define that when you grow up, you should model that after one of the best, which is Fred Rogers.
That's true.
And I know, and I've said this before too, it's like, it was a children's show, but it's like, there's a reason all the adults are still talking about it.
Yeah.
Because he had a huge, huge impact on their life. And it's like, if we can mix some of that stuff, and children need truth. We could get away with a little bit more than they could back then, or the network could, or whatever.
In some ways we have to, though. Because you don't want to, and I don't have the degree you do. I just have a little more time in the parent box. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Justina has some too. But if you shelter and hide away and don't give them enough truth, enough reality, it's okay. Just spin it back around. Just gently. And then lift it up just a pinch.
Oops.
It's okay.
I only screwed up once.
You got it. You're
so
good.
Far.
You're good.
Okay. Is that good there?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I feel official.
I should have cut over.
I'll just sit lower.
So I could have got you all these. No, you're fine. Your audience is good. But it is interesting for us to consider the idea that if we shelter it too much and we lie about it too much, we're lying to our kids. Yeah. And there's a little bit of reality. So we don't have to be like, here's the pain that you're going to feel, child, because they're not going to understand the context. But being honest about it, which is a great little sequence that we have, I think is good. But that's where I think having people that if when you go live or on TikTok for you guys to communicate to, or this platform, this is where you can have that same thing of like, hey, I watched the show. Here's what I felt. It is important because there's some friends that I have that I'll never see again. And man, I hate it because I love them dearly and I miss them. And I went through some shit with those people. See, I can cuss in here. Sorry I didn't do it in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't paying attention. But like I went through it and then on the other side, and I'll never see that side of it. So I think it's important that we can have that level of dialogue here.
Well, and I think too, it's important too that, you know, I'm not an expert. He's not an expert. You're not an expert.
You're a licensed children's therapist, though.
Right, but that still doesn't make me an expert. I may have a little bit of knowledge in that area, but I think going off of real life experience says a lot. It speaks volumes.
I'd be curious what you define, and I'm curious what you would define as an expert.
Well, I don't know if there's really an expert of anything. I think a lot of people know a lot of information about a lot of different things, but an expert, I don't know. It depends on what you define as an expert.
If I didn't have you, I probably wouldn't be on this earth. I consider you an expert in something, and I think people need people, and people need to be honest about their feelings and not brush people off when they try and give them signs and clues. And
100%.
It's like I can tell you, and we've dealt with it. We struggle. This honestly, getting this done. I recommend being a good person. I recommend you be prepared if you choose a good path,
right?
Like, or the path that and mean it. Like, I want to change the world for my daughter. Dwayne Johnson, when they hired us to go do this, I saw the power of putting a mirror in front of people, random people on the streets in LA and other cities and all this stuff, that simply said, "You are enough."
Right.
They'd walk up, they'd look at it. What is it? It's like we'd set up this like red carpet thing. People would stand in line, not even know what they're standing in line for. And then they get to the front of the line and they're standing in front of a mirror that says "You are enough," and they start breaking down.
Right.
And then we gave them hugs.
I think people need to hear that more too.
Yeah.
You are enough. I don't think they hear it enough.
Right.
You are enough.
Well,
as you are.
And there's got to be, there doesn't have to be the dinner table, but there has to be when I was a kid, when I was a boy, but it's different now too. And it's like when kids, if they got a phone, if they got a hard question to ask, they're going to go to Google. If you go to Google and you type, "How do I make my parents?" the first thing that comes up, proud. Is proud. And it's like, gosh, I want to make sure that she never has to ask that question. And if she does, she hopefully comes to me.
Well, that's interesting though, because that's a twofold thing. Maybe from my perspective, is that you've got to instill that strength in your kids, which is a challenge. Like you got to work with them. I mean, that's where I'm a big proponent. My kids compete on what they want to compete in. Yeah. Like they're not really super competitive because I am now as an adult, but I wasn't as a youngster.
Yeah.
But competition does give them ability to understand winning and loss and how to process and really to hopefully achieve that next one. Like I lost this game, but I'm going to win the next one. So it gives them a goal. And I think it's important, but as parents, you also have to look back and be like, wait a second, I got to stop for a second. It's not just doing, like part of my job is to instill that, to give that, to be here as best I can, to be present for that. But I also have to make sure that I do the same thing backwards and say, hey, you know what? I'm proud of you.
Baby,
that is Dada.
That is me. That's my driver's license.
And his driver's license number. Could you show that to us real quick?
Well, in respect to you, too, one of the things when we were talking, so everybody at home knows, when we were talking, a big part of us in our initial meeting with the studio and your amazing people was that Taylor, that I would take care of me as a person, that you guys would take care of yourselves, and that we would be able to take care of our families mentally and not put ourselves through too much.
Yep.
Because I forget that I've been through, for the longest time, I have to be reminded to eat because it's like the internet never shuts off. There's always people that need help, but I also have to help myself sometimes, or take a break or relax. And I've always had a really hard time.
Look, it's crucial. Like I learned a long time ago, the way my brain works, I had to have a hobby.
Yeah.
And Sarah will tell you, she'll make fun of me because like I could have a closet of hobbies.
Yeah.
Of like different things, like all kinds of random stuff. The one I always wanted was golf, but I can't do it. So I play video game. I told you the other night I play video game. I literally pour a whiskey and I play video game golf. Yeah. And then I scream at it. I get mad at the TV, but it is just my catharsis. Like it's good for me. Yeah. But mountain biking is that because I have to have some level of exercise. But I had to literally go through and build. I spent almost 7 years studying all my behaviors to build what is the most effective way for me to be able to live in this world.
Wow.
So growth is something I take very seriously. And I think it's important that we don't talk about it. We overlook it. We just say, take a pill or do this. I'm not saying not knocking meds.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. I had to change my diet. Like I can't have sugar. Sugar literally exemplifies my depression.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So
that's interesting.
I think like finding that rhythm for yourself is part of the goal of the content itself. That's what I meant when you're sitting in here. Well, we're going to work together to help each other.
I've been quite terrified. You know, I had all this stress, like getting these past few years trying to get this made and get this done, and then you know we're finally here to where we can announce. We're 2 days out from the announcement. I was fucking terrified.
Right.
Terrified. What's everybody? I have barely opened. My phone's been on, going off a lot, and I've got my notifications on the social stuff off, but I haven't been able to open it. Taylor's told me it's gone well, and some of our friends have said it's going well, and this is where it's at, and it's going. I'm like, thank God. Anything. Somebody said I should shave my bread. Apparently. And
It's the best quote.
If that's the worst thing, it's like, and you're watching whoever said that right now. Episode 2 is gonna how to
shave your bread.
How to shave my bread.
Oh my God, I'm so in.
We're all gonna learn a new skill.
Yes.
But that's a commercial. No offense to that first. Like it made me happy because and it really did because everybody has their opinions on everything, but I was really terrified too because I want everybody to know it's like no one is trying to replace. Like I am not trying to replace Fred.
Right.
He can't be replaced.
Right.
And this is the camera right now, right?
Yeah, you're down. Right
you're just as important as he was, and is, and still is to everyone. Everybody that's watching is. I think that's what sometimes we forget. You can have the same kind of impact he had, and if it takes care of one person and makes sure one person is here, if this show helps one person stay here, then it was all worth it. All the money, all the everything. And I believe that. Now, of course, I want it to help a lot more people. I don't think everybody will I think children will like the show. I think parents will like some of the things that are kind of slid into the show that are, Disney makes those jokes that, parents will get, not everybody else will, or some reference, or the old retro toys, or whatever we decide to do with it. I don't know that everybody will love this part, but I think this part might actually is just as important because you and I don't agree on every single thing.
That's right.
We use you're right all the time, and I mean it most of the time, but it doesn't mean I always agree with you. I have to come to that point, of course, but we live in such a swipe left, swipe right, up or down culture. It's like you don't like what somebody's saying, you can just have a new friend.
Yeah, I look forward to maybe finding ways of bringing the community into this conversation as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have an email for it and all that. We'll have a way to get conversations in, and I think maybe carving out a little time in that window going forward. You talked about it right before we went, or maybe while we were live, but I think if we have that to talk about some of those things, I think that's something interesting. Yeah. Because it's not just it's reactionary, good or bad. You got to deal with it. And sometimes shaving your bread is the fun part of that scenario. Obviously they just wanted to see you without a beard. I get it. I remember those days. There's a picture. I have that weird goatee picture.
Yeah. Well,
I just showed it to your daughter.
That's on my IMDb.
But I actually have a photograph of it in my office.
Oh, in your office?
A printed one.
Yeah. It's in there with another guy named, did you know Boogie?
Yeah. Boogie Dammy.
Yeah, it's.
Oh.
Yeah. but I have a picture of him. And it's like him and you. It's like all my like ether buddies.
Yeah.
I just found all these pictures and I was like, I'm keeping all these. This is prior. This is like a year ago.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was like, oh, there's
That's
Ed.
crazy.
I'm gonna keep
that
it.
was one of the coolest. And so everybody here knows, I told Drew this the other night. We were on the phone. Actually, we were on the phone. And we totally changed. I don't know if you want to talk. The first episode was supposed to be best friends.
Yeah, that's right.
And Drew called me. I had my concerns. I didn't want to bother Drew. Drew had his concerns and sent me an email, and I didn't get it. And
Ed does not check his emails,
I don't. Or my text, or I'm awful at it.
I mean, I told Sarah, I was like, I'm just gonna get Taylor's, but then I'm like, oh, she doesn't want my manic, crazy emails.
No,
I mean, it was like
the
6 paragraphs long, though.
It's the
of
only
detailed description.
If it's something that he needs to see, send it to me, and I will ensure that he gets it. It's brought to his attention.
I get distracted. Like, I'm like, I need Pokemon cards, so I'll go get Pokemon cards. It's like, I gotta check my email when I get home, and then it goes into something else.
Yeah, it's so bad.
And I think it's like I never really grew up, so I had to do that for so long.
No, I
it's
get
like
it.
you had to be like boom, 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 and now it's like, well, I can kind of just move here and there, and I like that.
You were saying before I interrupted, we were talking about the shift in the title. We changed the concept of episode 1.
Yeah, best friends to Drew. You called me, and I'm glad you said it. We talked about and moved everything to close friends and closest friends, who are our closest friends, because I think, I know I have times where I don't feel like I have any friends.
Right.
Definitely not a best friend.
Right. I mean, my point, my concept was, and I don't know if there's a relatable childhood psychology side of this, but I was just thinking, like, I was talking to the girls about it, my daughters.
Yeah.
And I said, who's your best friend? And they clicked, well, I have a lot of friends. And it was like, oh my God, you're right. Like, how could I say one friend is better than the other ones? And then when I was talking to Ed, it's like, well, I have mountain bike buddies that I'll never bring around you guys because they're heinous monsters, right? They are, but they're my best friends in that space that do something.
Meet them.
Oh, they're fantastic. But they're a separate.
Put me on a mountain bike.
Oh my gosh. But they're a separate group. And then I have friends. The guy that was just here is one of my closest friends. I've known him forever. Film industry. Doesn't relate into that world at all. But see, so I can't say that somebody is my best friend. That is excluding so many people that I do look at as I have relationships. I've invested in those because friendship is not just a one-way street. There's an investment. And I think that's something that's very interesting when we start talking about it.
I think that's it's interesting that you say that, because I'm thinking back to when I was in elementary school and I had my quote-unquote best friend. There was a new girl that moved into our school. She was in my class and I wanted to be her friend. And so I told my best friend, I'm going to be best friends with her for like a week, and then I'll come back and be best friends with you.
Right.
And her world was torn apart.
Right.
I mean, it caused like a huge falling out for 6-year-olds.
Yep.
You know, we were 6, 7 years old.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, as children, when you say best friend, that equates to one, usually.
That's it.
And because I think that a lot of times children don't understand that best friends can be numerous people. You can have numerous best friends, but it's been made out to that one is the best. And like you said, it's not fair to have children pick one as the best, like a competition.
That's what I'm saying.
Survival of the fittest almost.
But then arguably, are we then creating expectations inside the children that you have to perform a certain way in order to be someone's best friend? And that, to your very earlier point, is the exact same thing of like, now we're asking kids that you have to make another friend proud of you.
Yeah.
No, man.
That's weird.
You just have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, to me, like, opening with that is so profound, and having this conversation, that's deep. Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day whether we have friends, we talk about on the show, but we've lost friends, all of us here have. We've gained friends, right? We have new friends, old friends, whatever it might be. The reality of it is, like, you can't ask somebody to perform a certain way to be your friend and put standardizations on those things. Either you relate and that person adds value and you add value.
Yeah.
Or you're not friends.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, that a good friend is one that challenges you.
Yeah.
If I think you're doing something silly, I'm going to tell you. And
except in the mountain biking community, because they're usually like, Sunday, bro. And then you wake up with a broken arm.
See, I'm all up. As long as, I've always said this, it's like, I'll do anything as long as there's a camera. And we could at least try it.
Oh, boy.
We could at least try it, because at least we have a funny video if it all goes wrong.
Nope.
I want to go mountain biking.
No, you can't go.
No, that's gonna be a hard no.
That's a hard no for
You're too fragile.
Well, I
You're
just want
too
the
fragile.
costume. I want to wear the outfit.
The costume.
I just offended all your friends. I did this with sports stuff too. I called it costumes. I met some football player. I was like, "Oh, I love your costume," and he's like, and I was like, "I'm in an outfit or uniform." That's what I meant.
Oh my god.
This is why it's a hard no. Also, you're too fragile.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Fragile.
Fragile.
It's Italian.
Italian. Buongiorno, principesca, delicioso.
She agrees. You're too
But
fragile.
no,
Too funny.
it's crazy too because I think it's so cool. And what's crazy, and I don't know if you've thought of this, but I just thought about it too. You know what connected you and I again?
What was that?
TikTok.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's true.
You know,
That's right. You called
because if it hadn't,
Yeah.
well, I just like if TikTok and all this stuff hadn't been happening, you and I wouldn't be doing this. And when
but I kept tabs on you because I always looked for an excuse to figure out how to get you in something else.
yeah,
Because I would check on you through Suzanne
yeah, and we
and then OWA and all that stuff. All the
and
craziness.
not that we weren't connected, but what made this all
Oh,
happen?
yeah,
like
for sure.
the bigger, it's like if TikTok wasn't a thing, it's like you may not have TikTok, but TikTok is having an effect on you, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And that might be through me and all this stuff.
Right.
It's
A
like
proxy talk.
I think I told you too. It's like the other night when we were on set, I was like, "This is gonna save someone's life."
Yep.
Like, and when you get that first message, like
Yep.
I'm gonna send it to you when you get that first one comes through, and it's like it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. It's addicting. People, we've lost a lot of people in our life since social media and or Evelyn's been born. It's like, and we're not really exactly sure why. I don't know if it's because attention's on her. I don't know. I don't really know. But we love you, and we've kind of understood. But I don't think it's like sometimes friends and seasons and stuff like that changes, and I think that's okay. But it's really hard, and realizing that we got a bunch of crap from people in our personal life when we're like, hey, we're meeting some of our friends from TikTok. They're like, are you sure? Are they going to kill you or something? You know,
Yeah,
like everybody's
right.
like, what are they going to do? Are you guys, what are you doing? Are you guys weird or something? And it's like, no, we just really connected with them.
Is there going to be a bowl with some keys in it?
Yeah, an upside down pineapple.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but people
Well, I
always
think
say
people
that.
had a misunderstanding almost of what that looks like. You know, oh, you see these people on the internet, and now you're just going to go randomly meet them. It's like,
But because the world we're in has been like this crazy scenario.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, just the idea, like I can't fathom, like how much different the world is from just a dating standpoint.
Well, and that's
I
what
was literally
that's what we
just thinking
said.
that.
That's what we said, Drew, to him. I was like, they're on Tinder or Snatch.com or whatever, and we missed. Is that what it's called?
I'm going to promo this. The following episode is brought to you by Snatch.com. When you really need to
go daddy that before somebody else does.
I'm sure that's gone, and I'm
Everybody
sure.
does.
Do not go to that website, please. Do not go.
we're not sure where that'll take you.
Gosh, I'm so awkward.
But I think what you're saying is, you know, it's similar to online dating. You meet someone online, you have conversations with them, and then you agree to meet.
Right.
You know, same kind of thing.
And we missed that. Like, we were together before all that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. Just because I don't know that. Maybe it's like TikTok. Meeting people on TikTok.
Well,
I don't know.
There's a weird adjustment phase, though. Like, I have friends that are, one of my buddies in LA is older than me. And so he's on one of those now, Bumble, which one of those things. I think Bumble is what he's on. And, I mean, we don't tell, like, war stories like locker room talk.
Yeah.
But to me, it's fascinating because, like, I had to work very hard to even talk to my wife, much less eventually muster the courage to ask her to marry me. And so just getting that first date was a tremendous amount of effort. And I was like, how many days have you been on? He's like, 7 this week. He's like, I've been on a date every single night this week. And I'm like, what? And I don't think his term of date means like anything bad. Like he was literally saying he went out with 7 different people because he could.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was saying. I think too. I think there's something in the
I just don't.
baby. I think there's something in. I'm not knocking it either.
No, I'm not either.
I'm using it. We're not knocking it either. I simply don't understand it. How maybe some people don't understand us meeting people off of TikTok or like visiting people from TikTok or whatever. But I also, it's like I can't imagine myself. It's like maybe, and I'm just curious. I don't know because I didn't do it. But it's like, man, if I like before I met Taylor, like I read some profile about her. And like knew all these details and her what movies she liked and everything. It's like if I knew all that before, could I find interest in like I'd much rather just like learn.
Well, I think that's but it's some of it's time, society, and time, and that's what I'm saying. Like even with the content that we're creating for the show, there's a classic side of things. There's like this little homage to the past because I think it's important. But I also think what's interesting is that it can still be relevant towards the future, and I think that you can look at both and say, look, this. I mean, being honest and being good is never out of fashion. There's no shift, right? It's timeless.
I'm so glad you said that because I was thinking that earlier, and I was going to say.
Well, I beat you to it, so then.
And you beat me.
Well, you make sure to tag me in your TikToks. I don't even know what that means. Can you tag people?
You would have to know. I called him yesterday before I was getting ready to post.
I gave you the wrong.
You did. I was like, Drew, I'm getting ready to post. We're getting ready. I said I was going to post it this time, and so I was live yesterday, and I got the approval from you. For the post.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just got the approval, so I'm going to shoot for this time and all that stuff. And I told all these people that were in there, and they were like, super jacked. They're like, post it now. And I was like, no, I got some stuff to do. Are you dusting? That's
a deep clean.
Yeah. Thank you, Evelyn. See, I think this is how it's supposed to go, too. It's like most people would be like, there might be somebody watching who's like, get out of there during the thing. It's like, no,
that's the reality.
This is just
life. Real life.
This is what it is.
And but I was so excited, and I called Drew yesterday. I was like, "Okay, Drew, I need your handles for your like socials and stuff." He's like, go ahead and try this one.
I gave him CRFTSHO, the old name.
And so I had got that one, and then I was like, this doesn't seem right. Maybe it isn't in Instagram. And I was like, I don't know if this is the right one. So calling me, he's like, you know what, just go ahead and post it. Just don't do it. Just go ahead and post it.
And so, but then I call Allie, who's my social media person, and I was like, hey, listen, there might be a post coming through. You need to approve it or something. Whatever you got to do with it. And then I got a message from her like later last night. She was like, hey, that never came through. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I told him don't worry about it. I don't know it's not my space. Like I'm 100% for it. I'm not anti it. It's just not my space.
Well, it's funny because I've told people, I've tried to tell a lot of people who are very involved, and I'm not knocking anybody, but I don't think anybody, I told Taylor, I was like, I'm not sure anybody takes me seriously sometimes, which I totally understand, but sometimes when I'm real serious, I am real serious. Yeah. And a lot of people that really do understand what we've been able to do on the socials.
Weird. Yeah. What you guys doing on the socials over there?
A bunch of that do understand it. It's like, you know, some of them reach out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you really did it," and I was like, "Yeah, I was trying to tell y'all we were gonna do it, and I wasn't gonna stop." And when I posted this video, a few of them, some of my most viral videos ever, me tying that tie for people, for kids or parents or single parents or whoever. And when I saw that, I was like, this is happening. And I'm going to go as hard as I can until I can maybe teach somebody how to tie a tie or just tell them I'm proud of them. And I think the response is, if it helps one, it's worth it.
No, look, I think the show will do really well. I think it'll be exciting. I think this content will be fun. I think what we have in front of us is a lot of stuff of raw, organic. It is what it is. Like the show is scripted, obviously, but everything that happens around it, that's just life. Like kids being here, whatever it may be, who cares? That's just life. Yeah. And I think that once we go through that, what I think the beauty of that is that we have this content that lets her see things, lets my kids see things. They grow up with it. Kids can enjoy it. Yeah. But then on the other side of it, here's this really raw, really new, really unique. I was looking at a plug over there. Oh yeah. And it's right at kid finger height too. Yeah. This place is definitely not child safe at all. Okay. But like once we're done with once these things come out, once these episodes or content or podcast or TikToks or whatever it is, once they drop, it's like a whole new experience because this is different. Like I think this is inside baseball. I swear to you guys, like audience wise, there's no filter, which is good.
It's well, I think too. It's like we were talking about the.
Except for on the show, there's filter for children.
Yeah, filter on the show. Obviously, we won't put anything out there, but I think showing some of the blooper, like letting it roll.
Yeah,
we talked about continuity or the.
We threw that out the door.
Yeah, there is none. I mean, there's a very familiar living room and set and everything, but it changes, and it's supposed to be. Well, that doesn't make sense. It's like I'm glad you're watching.
I would just challenge people to try and follow the turtle.
Oh yeah. Good luck.
Or watching frame to frame when suddenly things get added.
Yeah.
There's so many little nuances. Maybe one day we can do a contest where like if we hide something in there in plain view and you find it, maybe we can find a way to do a giveaway that way.
I like that.
But buried in the show. Something really fun that way.
And I haven't been able to I've been trying to since the launch last night just kind of keep my head together because I've been scared, anxious just with everything that we've all put into it. But I don't. Were there any comments about the 143?
No one's seen it.
All those people.
I mean, I've seen a lot of 143s in the comments.
Yes,
but I don't think anybody has called it.
Has called
it out on the video.
Not that I've seen. There's a lot of 143,
right?
But the actual 143 from.
I love it. Noticing it.
I love it. I do think it'll get more blatant in the title sequence, obviously.
Yeah.
Once that happens, that gag exists if people know what it means, which I think a lot of your community does.
Yeah. Well, I think showing people. I think sometimes it's easier to say to people and strangers too. It's like assign them 143.
Right.
If someone knows what 143 is, they know, and they'll say it back to you without walking up to some stranger being like, "Hey, I love you."
Right.
I did this bit. I have to say this too because the other night we were shooting, and I was shooting this. I was talking down lens like this, and I was like real emotional. I was like, I just want you to know that you can see me and I can see you. And Drew's like, okay, that's a little creepy. So I can see you. And I was like, you're right. It is kind of.
It was innocent.
You said it nicer than that.
It was very innocent, but it did feel like I can see you. And you can, you can see me, and I can see you.
What's that guy, Keith Morrison? Little did you know, on the other side of the camera was the creepy man at 143 Neighborly Way. It was.
From
Dateline.
Sarah,
little did she know.
Little did you know.
He can also see you.
Yeah, and I was like,
that is. I think we got to figure out a gag for that now.
You've seen Bill Hader's like.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Little did she know. Nimbly, pimbly, timbly toe down the road. Where did it go?
That's pretty good.
Is it sound?
Yeah.
Sound good?
I just watched it. Like Sarah maybe just watch it. She watches Dateline. That's her jam.
I love Dateline.
Yeah, that's not my jam.
Dateline 2020.
I don't know that we want to.
I'm not a true crime person. I can't do it.
I used to watch Snapped all the time.
That makes so much sense.
But when I walk in, if I walk into the house and my wife is watching Snapped, I'm like, she's getting plans. She's
like,
prepping.
I better shape up so she doesn't have to make a plan. I'm just kidding.
Oh, goodness.
I get in there, I'm like, this makes me... I tell a story. One of the worst early on in our marriage fights we ever had. Our old house had French doors like this. You guys can't see them, but there's French doors right here. And had these French doors, and we had a blowout, right?
Uh-huh.
And I feel terrible about it, and I go in there, and I don't know why it stands out to me. I've never been scared by Night of the Living Dead. It's just not a scary movie. The black and white, it's lame. But we've fought. I've been kicked to the couch, right? And I'm laying there, and I fell asleep with something on, and I wake up, and it's literally like black and white zombies busting through like a door, and I'm just laying there like, oh my God, alone.
Yeah,
exactly. So then I immediately apologized. Like it was, so I saved my marriage.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, George A. Romero saved my marriage with some zombies.
Isn't that crazy though? Like when you really think about that though.
Yeah.
I think that's terribly interesting too. I think that goes back to what I said about. I'm thinking about it's like things would be a lot scarier without Taylor in my
Yeah,
life.
no, I get it. I totally get it.
And I think it's like maybe those zombies that, man, that's cool.
It was a little metaphor, but it was one of those things of like now that movie bothers me because it remind like I think back and like that was not a good one of those moments. All right, so the show is going to drop however we want to drop it. We have not even really gotten onto a schedule, right? That's not what we're doing. We're just going to make it. I mean, we're trying.
Yes.
But it's
Work
tricky.
in progress.
Work in progress. We're working through it.
That is
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Wherever you are looking from, we're working through it.
Yeah. Much like this show, it'll drop. This will drop typically after that show. Just that part we have scheduled.
Yep.
There may be some other things that we do that are scheduled for content. We'll let those be surprises and unfold organically. Is there anything else we need to shamelessly plug or put forward that you're thinking of now? Is there anything coming up or that we want to talk about going forward? We don't have to date the show with like, hey, I'm going to be making an appearance. That doesn't do us any good, but
yeah.
No, I think, I mean, we've kind of said it through the conversation and everything, but I think, this show is just as much for everyone else as it is for ourselves too. So hearing from everyone on what they would like to see or what something that they didn't get when they were a kid. My mom never talked to me about this. My dad never talked to me about this, so that maybe we can try to incorporate some of those things into what we're doing, because we don't have everything written and scripted right now.
Right.
We're still coming up with those ideas and different ways to benefit everyone. And I think that's where adults can come in and say, like I just mentioned, my mom or dad or grandparents or whoever never talked to me about this when I was a kid. I think it'd be really great if we could have something that falls under that category, or, my children are really struggling with this, at school or at home. I don't know how to approach them about it. Different
That's a
things
great
like
idea.
that. So we can try to come up with ideas or ways to approach those things where we can all, collectively come together, put our brains together and come up with a way that we can maybe try to address some of those things. Because there's tough subjects, you know, and I don't know. I think
we have a lot of teachers in our community too. So it's like, even the teachers, it's like, if there's something that maybe the show could help children with, that you've noticed a lot of the children in your classes aren't being taught at home. Simple things like, well, not really simple things, like tying a tie. I say simple because it's simple to me because I was taught.
Right.
That's
tying
a complex thing. Tying a shoe.
Yeah, for sure.
And Fred taught a lot of people, and that's the thing, a lot of young people don't know how to shave, there's all of these things. So there's so many things to learn. And
I think it's interesting. It's a great point because it was what that old saying, like it takes a village to raise. It's kind of interesting. It takes a community. In this case, we have the ability. You guys have a community that has lots of intuitive competence in a variety of things that then can come in. Now we should be making like epic level kids at that point, right?
Yeah.
If you have this wonderful group of human beings that can impart all this knowledge, why would you not want to take advantage of that and see what you can do? So it's a great concept. Love it. All right.
I think too, like, we'd love to be the voice for people that feel they don't have one.
Yeah.
And a lot of times kids don't feel like they have a voice. So if we can be that for them or for the parents that are struggling or for anyone really,
right?
I think that's something to be said too.
See Evelyn walking around with this. I don't know what came.
And one more thing before we go. I just have to say, wherever we are with the camera.
Yeah, you can go right here.
I love you and I'm proud of you. And I could have used to hear that more growing up, and I think a lot of people would. I'm proud of you. And I'll let you close it. I got a tinkle. So.
Okay. You can Joe Rogan it. All right. So from all of us here at whatever the heck this show is called, we love you and we're proud of you. Fair?
I love that.
Perfect.
All right. That's our closer.
Good.
Until next time.
Wait. Now.
Until next time.
Little did he know the show would continue for so much longer, because way down the road
He still can't stop
were
talking.
3 little bears.
Okay, we're killing it.
And cut.
Goodbye.